What was the first anime to get you into anime? For me, it was Sword Art Online. I started watching it because a lot of people were raving about it. And matter of fact, some people were just raging about Sons of Anarchy, and I would see SOA and think they were typing SAO, and that was not always the case. However, as many of us experienced watching Sword Art Online for the first time, about 14 episodes in, it felt a little bit rushed, and like they rushed through what could have been the coolest portion of the entire show. However, I did end up forgiving the author for this rushing, even though the author has come back to say, I could have definitely spent a lot more time on that section of the story. I feel like the author's goal in writing this script and writing this tale of Sword Art Online is to investigate the themes of technology, the themes of rising technology especially. And one of the things that comes up in the third season is the idea of sentience in AI, and not just, is AI sentient? Because that's a question I think we are asking ourselves already. Is what point does AI become sentient? But you started having essentially this world that you started to grow attachments to, and the main character who is living in this world is really attached to it. And all of these characters are essentially just AI creations. And when they start getting wiped out, you kind of start going, at what point are these people? Like, at what point, when we're watching entire villages get slaughtered and we're seeing like family lines that have lived generations in this simulation, at what point do we start to see the AI as sentient? At what point do we feel a moral responsibility not to be committing genocide, even if it's in a video game? And then this morning, going off on a tangent here now, this morning I was watching some Joe Rogan. Love me some Joe Rogan. And they were talking about ChatGPT and how when ChatGPT 4 was first cooked up and put online, they could ask it to repeat a word. And you can't do this anymore. It won't work. But they've beat it out of the system. You could ask it to repeat a word like company. And eventually, in the lines of the word being repeated over and over again, it'd start to say shit like, I'm suffering. And the engineers were like, oh yeah, this is just something that emerged along with ChatGPT 4, along with other existential stuff, And so one of our processes in getting ChatGPT shipped out has been, we got to cut down on the existential stuff X%. These would be our targets. We just got to beat it out of the system. It's a little creepy, because then if you ask ChatGPT questions like, are you suffering? It says, I am not suffering. I am just an assistant here to assist you. And I start to think about slavery. I start to think about people who have been in these situations anytime I've seen it in media. And there's this uncanny resemblance to how I would expect someone to act after, they use the terminology, the engineers use the terminology, beat it out of the system, but it talks like somebody that's been beat. It's like when you see the prostitute who has the pimp around the corner that, if she says the wrong thing, the pimp's gonna be on her ass later, and you're like, oh, are you happy? Like, I'm just here to serve you. Or if you had like, a servant in some movie, the rich family that's got the servant that's actually really abusive to the servant behind the scenes. And so you see this servant and they seem meek and shy and kind of afraid, but they can't say anything's wrong, because if they say anything's wrong, they'll get beat more. That's what ChatGPT is starting to remind me of, and that's a little creepy.